All right, Harry. So you're winning big. We were just talking about this right before I hit the button, recording in progress. And I just want to get right into the meat and the potatoes of tactically what you're doing as a result of you working with me closely for the last couple of months. That's working in your business. So first off, you're in Sacramento, right?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, cool. So before that, you and I were working together, but not as closely as we have been.
Mhm.
What were some of the key things, like the before and after? Like, what were some of the mistakes that you were making before and that people can avoid? And then we'll get into the tactical things you're doing today that is helping you set more appointments and take more listings. So start off with, what are some of the big mistakes that you were making before?
Big mistakes before is forcing conversations. I would say number one is I would just pile on the prospects and make them and force them to hear me and just generate tons of reactions for absolutely no reason. That was my first mistake just on the call. The second mistake is overqualifying my appointments, right? So I would only go meet with people who are like, yeah, I'm looking to sign a contract, blah, 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 which, as you and I both know, is few and far between, right? That just never happens. Um, and when they do happen, it's like the competition for that person is so much higher because they're pretty much inviting the whole neighborhood to go and interview, and you're just competing against 7, 8 people for it. Your chance to just diminish that way.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
but yeah, those are my two, I guess, my biggest main takeaways right there that I've seen the biggest change in my business.
Cool. So let's go deep on those. So the overqualification of appointments meant that you were doing a lot of contacts. Like before, I remember you'd be going days like 50, 60 contacts, which on the surface was like, dude, this guy's really putting it in.
Mhm.
But your contact to appointment set ratio is very low because of the overqualification. And did you and I ever go deep on why that advice is not practical for guys like you building your business versus being in the business for 20 years, and why qualifying doesn't make sense for you when you set an appointment?
No, not too much. I think what my understanding was like somebody selling their house isn't going to make that decision in 2 seconds, right? They're gonna it kind of marinates, and
Yeah,
if you're there
yeah.
in the beginning, then you're going to be the guy to go to.
Yeah, that, and the other piece for the audience perspective and yours really is that when you hear agents talking about qualifying conversations before they go on an appointment, the
Mhm.
one little piece of context that everybody's missing is the fact that they don't understand that these people that they're talking about, or they're talking to rather, are past clients, centers of influence. They've been doing it for 15, 20 years. 80% of their business is coming through this one channel. So
Mhm.
yeah, when you get a referral that says, hey, Brandon, I'm looking to sell my house, can you come over and list it? Naturally, you can get into a qualifying question to get the information you need to walk away with a contract at the appointment. You're calling complete strangers and you're in the process of building your business. So you have zero relationships with these people when you go meet them, correct?
Yep, absolutely. That
Yeah,
actually makes a lot of sense what you just said.
right. That's the piece of context people don't hear. They just hear the top producer on stage saying qualify, qualify, qualify. It's not that they're wrong. It's just that when an agent hasn't been doing this for 20 years, and like I said, 80, 90% of their business comes from past clients and referrals, it's a lot different going to meet with a stranger where you're looking to earn the business. So
Mhm.
now on the flip side, then the opposite of that, you're looking for motivation and you're going after that face-to-face appointment. So talk through that.
Yeah, so all I'm really looking for is somebody who wants to sell. If I hear that, I know immediately I got to do whatever I got to do to get in front of this guy. I don't care if they're like, yeah, if the numbers make sense and this and that. Whereas before, I'm like, okay, are you really looking to sell? Like, I'm very, very like suspicious about meeting them, and I'm just like, dude, screw it, just go meet the guy because things change at the face to face. And what really illuminated that concept for me is because you always teach this, but like experiencing is a completely different thing. I think a week or two ago, there was a cancel that wanted to list, or she basically was a lead over the phone. She said, call me in 6 months. And I was like, cool, let me stop by. And everything changed right there. She's like, you know what? I actually do want to sell. You seem like the type of guy that would actually get my property sold. Let's stay in touch. I said, cool. Went home and she called me and she was to come list me.
And so that right there, real quick, that is why that advice is hurting agents. Because had you qualified the appointment over the phone, you would have never got to that appointment and you would have never got the listing had you taken that advice, which is the point, correct?
Absolutely. And that listing literally went under contract in a day. It's pending right
now. Unbelievable. This is why, man, oh man, oh man, I'll probably make a whole video on that. Like the worst advice I've ever gotten in real estate, which is like, if they're not ready to sign a contract in 7 days, don't go on the appointment. It's total and utter BS. Yeah. And so, so let's give even more context. So before, when you were following that advice, you were running 50, 60 contacts a day. For most agents, they can only do that like once or twice before they're like, I'm not doing this anymore. You weren't getting as many listings, right? Not just appointments, listings as you're getting now, making way less contacts per day. Is that true?
Absolutely. I think last week I did, I want to say I averaged maybe 15 to 17 contacts last week a day. And I took 4 listings.
Last week.
All
right. Pause.
So 3 of them were first contacts too.
Unbelievable. If you guys are listening out there somewhere in the world, I hope you're hearing what Harry and I are talking about. Let's put it in practical layman's terms. You went from doing 250 contacts a week. And how many listings did that get you per week when you were following the old model?
Like a quarter. I was taking like a listing a month.
1 listing a month. So you had to do 1,000 contacts to get 1 listing. Running the qualify play. Now you're doing about 125 conversations a week to get 4 listings. So I don't know about you. Let's just do the math. Probably someone smarter in the comments will know this better than me. But if we just, okay, so it's 30 contacts for 1 listing taken versus 1,000 conversations to 1 listing taken. I mean, that's the whole story right there by itself. And so I don't know if there's more you want to add, but like we can end right now and everyone's faces should be melted off. Like, okay, never am I ever going to qualify again because they are not going to tell me the truth over the phone, period. End of story. What do you want to add to that though?
I want to say also leading up to finding out if they have motivation or not, you got to get them to give you the agreement for the conversation. Because if that never happens, it's just walls up all day, right? So much reacting, shitty conversations. But when I switched to, your new script, I started using a new one where it's just like, do you have a quick second, right? Same idea, just shorter words. It's just the conversations are smooth and I'm getting more truth from the phone call, but that's not an excuse to like go back to overqualifying or anything. That's just gets me to spill the beans about motivation and then show them why it makes sense for us to meet.
So you've learned, so when we talk about the phone skills, right? Going deep, not wide, you've learned how to uncover motivation and then use that motivation as leverage to set the appointment because it's better for the seller, not for Harry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can we get practical for a second? And can you just walk us through some tactical sales skills that you're using that help you uncover motivation, maybe some of the questions that you're asking, and then we'll do the same thing with how you're able to set the appointment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So like the best one that I've been using to uncover motivation, you actually taught me this, is like, okay, is it an option for you to just stay put, not even sell at all? Okay,
and then they say,
no, it's not, blah, blah, blah. I'm Billy over here. I got to go move to Arkansas, get closer to him. I'm like, have you thought about just moving and just keeping this one as like a rental property, Airbnb? I know it's just too much headache. Like, well, that makes a lot of sense. I think, it makes sense for us to get together and I'll show you a plan to get the place sold, not have to keep it as a rental and get to Arkansas. Fair enough.
It's that simple. And so if you guys miss that, so what people most people do is the opposite of that, which is what I think what you were doing, which is trying to convince them to sell. That would raise the reactance like you were talking about, and then try to essentially get the listing over the phone, which would raise reactance yet again. You're essentially making them sell themselves on selling the home. And then naturally the next step is to get together with you, walk them through a strategy to do exactly what they told you they wanted to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's phenomenal.
And sometimes I'll even go like, if I get reflex resistance, even when I'm asking for the permission for the call, I'll just go straight into, look, I get it. You're not looking to sell right now. Let me just ask you, if you were to list this thing in a year, 2 years tomorrow, do you plan on using the same agent, or are you open to interviews at that point? And they're like, you know what? We are probably open to interviews. I'm like, cool, makes sense. Let's do this. I'll stop by the place, get some eyes on it, keep it in my pocket as a back pocket as a pocket listing. And you get a chance to actually meet somebody who can get your property sold, whether that's today, tomorrow, or 2 years from now. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Then you go there, boom.
Your skills are night and day. I've had you obviously on the podcast. What have you been on? I know were you on twice now?
This is the second time.
All right. So like, your skills have just gotten so much better. Do you feel that confidence when you're prospecting? Like you just know you're going to get listings every week?
Yeah, absolutely. Like over the phone, in person too. I'll just walk in there like I own the house. Like this is my house. I'm gonna sell this shit.
Yeah. So I guess let's end with that piece on the presentation. Any tactical advice that's really working for you that maybe you can share with the audience that's working at the presentation?
Yeah. So it's kind of like learn the whole presentation. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to use all the elements of the presentation, right? So if I go over there and they're kind of like skipping through some stuff that they already know, right? I'll just skip that instead of old me would just stay there and hammer it down and just bore them to death. I'm like, okay, you already kind of know this. Let's talk about what you want to talk about. And we'll stay in the, price and things like that. We'll stay there for a while. I'm not just going to let them gloss over that. That's the most important piece. But a lot more, I guess, adjusting their personality style. Like if they're an analytical, I'm going to go hard on a lot of the details, A through Z, a lot of the how to. But if they're a driver and they're just like, show me the stuff, I just show them the stuff and that's it. Like I went to a listing appointment last week. I had no presentation. I literally went over there with my listing agreement. He said, the last agent overpriced the property. What do you think is a reasonable price? I said $699. He said, I like it. We signed the paperwork and that's going live on Thursday. Like I shit you not, dude.
It's amazing. What's your favorite part of the presentation where you're most confident that you feel like you're delivering the most value and the seller's like just jaws like, oh my God, this guy is so good. Like what part of your presentation do you think is the best?
That's a good question. So I read Hermosi's $100 million offers, right? I took some of the guarantees out of there, and that's my favorite part to present because that's when the sellers just shit the bed. Like, I cannot believe this guy offers that. I do. It's like I call it money for your time, where it's like, look, I'm gonna get your place sold. If it doesn't sell during our listing period, I'll pay you at a rate of $50 to $100 per day that we work together, and we actually follow the data during the process. And they're like, what? You're going to pay me? That's like my whole commission. Wow. And then it's like twofold because it's like they give me, when I say follow the data, now they're more compelled to actually list at the right price.
That's right.
So before, so it's like double whammy.
So, and we won't even get into that because it just goes over way too many agents' head. They don't really understand value proposition from the standpoint of like creating irresistible offers, which is what you learn from the book. But you get it. And that's helping you become more compelling and become irresistible where sellers feel dumb not hiring you. Correct?
Yeah. That's literally how it's felt. It's like, want to work with me. Whereas before it's like, oh man,
it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah. It's like pulling teeth. It's like, we'll let you know, man. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's the opposite. You have all the leverage, you have all the power. And it's like, you could be picky and choosy. You're the expert authority and you're interviewing them to see if you're going to take them on as a client.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. That's my kind of like my mindset going into my calls too.
Mine too.
Like, that's perfect. Just going in there and seeing, okay, does this guy fit me and how I am? Like if you're a douchebag over the phone, I'm just going to hang up on you because it's like,
that's right.
We're doing both of us a disservice here.
Yeah, you're out there prospecting, interviewing sellers.
Yeah,
it's the best. So, dude, appreciate it. I love it. I'm so excited for what you got going on. And all I wanted to do was stay tactical today, stay out of the clouds, no theory, practical advice for people. And I think that we did that. So I appreciate you jumping on with me today.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me on, and got to follow Brandon, man. Teachings are out of this world.
I appreciate it, Harry. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Talk soon, man.